On a sunny April day Wednesday, news of an unusual appearance on the coast spread in a remote village in the Kamchatka region. The villagers were amazed by what they saw. It was a wild polar bear that none of them had ever seen before. But how did he get there? These animals usually live several hundred kilometers away in the Arctic. Well, his story was interesting. One day, when the animal was hunting for food, the ice sheet on which the polar bear was found must have split off from the mainland. The animal probably tried to return to land, but was surrounded. It couldn't risk icy water. This was the beginning of an adventure that changed the life of a young predator. After a few days or even weeks, he arrived in a foreign country completely different from the one he knew. The animal was an impressive 450 miles or 700 kilometers away from its home. When he arrived at the village and stopped by the shore, all he could think about was food. The polar bear tried to find food, but all attempts were unsuccessful. This land was not only strange, but also unusually warm, and there was little suitable food. He wandered around, but at first avoided approaching the village. His keen hearing picked up the distant sounds of people's daily lives. Usually his brethren stayed away from human settlements, but this animal was hungry and tired. It might have been unwise to approach the village, but the need for urgent help pushed him forward. His attention was attracted by a nearby building, and he headed towards it. Of course, the predator had no idea that this was a rural police station. Weakened and tired from the long journey, he lay and looked sad and a helpless expression on his face, as if asking for help. It didn't take long for the local police to find out about the unusual visitor. One of the policemen raised the alarm, and 2 policemen were called to examine the animal. The polar bear was huge, with white fur and clearly visible sharp claws. Of course, they were very afraid to come closer. The police approached cautiously to get a better look at the animal, but kept their distance so as not to scare it. The concerned police were shocked when they finally found out what kind of animal it was. There, in the snow, lay a large and formidable young polar bear that had mysteriously landed in their small village. They couldn't believe their eyes, but they also realized that something was wrong with their unexpected guest. Apparently, the animal suffered a serious injury to its front paw. The polar bear lay miserably, clutching its wounded paw to its body. The police felt sorry for the animal and were determined to help Kolos. They contacted the local wildlife authorities. Those in charge were surprised when they heard about the unusual case and set off as soon as possible. They took care of the polar bear's paw and made sure that he could rest. Umka, as the locals soon began to call the bear, became a kind of celebrity in the village. The villagers brought him a lot of fish and delicacies every day, although Umka ate only a little. It was obvious that the bear wanted to go home, although he appreciated the kindness of people. The bear became a sensation, attracting even guests from the surrounding villages. The officers kept a close eye on the bear, making sure no one got too close while they considered the final decision. Experts were consulted, and they came to the conclusion that Umka has no chance of surviving in Kamchatka, and he urgently needs to return to his homeland. But how do they do it? The animal was so disoriented that it could never find its way back on its own. And even if the polar bear knew the way, the journey would be unwise for the animal, and it would not make it. The situation seemed hopeless. Vladimir Gordienko, head of the State Hunting Supervision Department of the Regional Forestry and Wildlife Protection Agency, explained that Umka is not an isolated case. Polar bears are sometimes washed away from their home on the ice floes when the ice sheets suddenly break away from the mainland. Unfortunately, they usually cannot return to their homeland or find food in a new environment. Therefore, for guests like Umka, it is very likely that they will die after this forced relocation. However, people did not want to allow this to happen. They had to find a way to help the polar bears. News about the unusual visitor spread quickly, and many watched the development of his situation with interest. In a matter of days, measures were taken to return the predator to the Arctic, where his real home was. The office of the governor of the region, Vladimir Ilyukin, asked the Minister of Emergency Situations, Yevgeny Zinicheva will provide a helicopter to return the Umka to its polar habitat. In addition, A special transport cage was made for the animal, Kamchatka official Sergei Kabarov said. 8 days after his arrival, the Russian Ministry of Emergency Situations organized an air rescue operation to bring Umka back to the icy Arctic. Such a maneuver had never happened before, and therefore it became a serious problem for all participants. Nevertheless, people were determined to carry out a rescue operation. Upon arrival in Kamchatka, experts temporarily euthanized the bear so that it could survive the flight. Kamchatka wildlife consultant Alexander Zelnitsyn said that Umka is healthy and well-fed. Then the anesthetized animal was placed in a specially made cage and loaded into a helicopter. The villagers applauded as the officials left with Umka, but no one could have guessed what would happen during the flight. It was a long journey, and the crew members were tense when suddenly something completely unexpected happened. They heard a noise in the cage. The polar bear woke up. Everyone was on their guard. They didn't want to scare the animal with sudden movements. The crew's concern was high, as they feared that the animal might try to destroy the cage or shake the Mi-8 helicopter on a 700-kilometer flight. This could jeopardize the entire mission and endanger the lives of everyone on board. Fortunately, the bear seemed to understand that people wanted to help him. To everyone's delight, he remained quietly in his cage, watching them with his dark eyes with my eyes. He was conscious during the flight, but did not shake the cage. A representative of the government of the Kamchatka territory told the press, "It was loud, and Umka was scared, but he kept calm." He was such a brave bear. The flight went smoothly until they reached the destination where he was supposed to be released. After landing, they opened the cage door, and Umka was asked to get out. The bear hesitated for a moment, and then ran off into the desert. The mission was a great success, and Umka finally returned to his usual home.